Welcome.
Welcome to the
Oh,
RGB podcast. I'd like to introduce you to Galaxy, Mr. Galaxy Boog, Abby Blackbird, tftb, Too Fat to Boog, and my friend Concrete Hades. And I
aloha.
forgot to change my name, but Colonel Q.
Trust the
It's
plan.
all good.
So what are we going to discuss tonight? It sounds like
So
the ATF.
first topic on the docket. These pieces of shit at the ATF trying to make felons out of probably half, if not 3/4 of all gun owners in the United States of America, just by the fucking little bit of a swish of a pen.
It's only a crime because it's written on paper.
Free men don't ask permission, brother.
Free men do not
Absolutely.
ask permission.
So, specifically what I wanted to talk about this, outside of the fact of how ridiculous and fucking insane and unconstitutional all this is what do we think with Trump's executive order against this very sort of thing? How do we feel that Trump is going to react to this?
He's gonna fucking push this shit through.
He's
No
not.
doubt.
He's not going to react.
Well,
He's going to let it pass the
Otherwise-
call uninterrupted, like he has every other violation of the Constitution. So long as it doesn't fuck with his message, he doesn't care.
he's either going to sign off on it like he did with bump stocks, or he's going to say, no, that's too far. Now, I do believe that our orange friend, there's definitely been some things that have come across the orange man's desk that he has said, no, that's absolutely too far. The bump stock ban was a compromise because they wanted to completely ban certain other things. However, the time for kind of just saying, okay, I'll take this if you don't do this is over. Right? It's too far. It's all too far.
I'm thinking that with his ego and having made the XO specifically against this sort of thing, he might actually get pissed, because when he is directly and openly defied, then he acts a fool.
Yeah, but you could say the
Only
same
time to
thing
tell.
about his foreign policy, and the man is still encouraging the fucking genocide in Yemen. Like, he can preach all he wants to on the surface, but what the hell is he going to actually do? Nothing.
I think a bill like that for the ATF would have to be signed by more than just the orange man. I believe that has to be signed by everyone. You can guarantee if we end up with Uncle Sniffy will sign that shit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
They literally state it in their fucking campaign websites, and every time that he gets to open his mouth without a handler intervening on the fucking topic.
Yeah.
You know, Beto, you'll be my guy on guns. And Beto's response, we'll take your AR-15, we'll take your AK-47. Like fucking, it's just like, good God. Are you gonna...
So what does this bill say? Because I went to go read it and I couldn't find any actual words. I just found the number of the bill and I didn't see anything else attached to it.
This one in particular, or like the pistol brace?
The specific bill I haven't
shit.
seen, but I have seen the letters to manufacturers basically all saying the same thing, but expanding upon the letter that they had sent Q.
Right, for the pistol braces.
Yeah, the new restrictions are going to be based on the weight, but doesn't specify anything about the amount, the length of the barrel, the overall length of the gun.
And it sounded like they were going to want
the potential magazine capacity, which would in effect turn my concealed carry gun into a short-barreled rifle, because I can have 24-round magazines for it.
All right.
Because it specifies magazines between 20 and 100 rounds. All right, motherfuckers, I'm carrying a belt fed.
I don't mean to interject or sidetrack too much, but as Boog Boys, do you know what the real strategy is here? As someone who's internal in politics, like I make my bread and butter in the political realm, do you know what the real strategy is here? Talk to your sheriff. Don't worry about presidential elections. Don't worry about Congress and senatorial elections. If you can make sure you get your sheriff either based or replaced, that's where your money is going to be made. Because, for example, I'm in California. That's where I live, at least. My state is sold down the river 90% of the way, fucked 7 days of Sunday. When COVID shit came down and first started crashing down, my sheriff stood against it and said, we're not enforcing any of these shutdowns. And the state really couldn't do anything because that means they'd have to bring state troopers, and the feds couldn't do anything because they'd have to roll in marshals. So it's a lot more effort on their part. So if you really want to resist these tyrannical laws, the best way to do so is to actually go to your sheriff and your local government rather than state or fed.
I like that, TFTB. I actually just went to a party with a whole bunch of locals, cops, state cops. And you know what? Like, as far as being redcoats, they're redcoats. At the end of the day, like, they're going to enforce some laws that are tyrannical, whether they agree with them or not, because it's their job. That being said, a lot of them are definitely on board with not looking for violations, right? Like, they don't want to go around looking. And kind of the conversations I had with some of these guys was, well, what if you got a direct order to go house to house checking out people's shit? And they said that is the point where we draw a line in the sand. And it was really, really good to hear that, because I live in a commie state too, where I've already had guns confiscated. And you know, to hear that their ideology has been shifting in mass. You know, and I was at a party with 100 people, and not one of them had a mask on, because they're not down either. You know, and 50% of the place were cops, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing this. So you're right. I absolutely agree with that. TFTB. I think that you know, if we can get across to our local governments, that we're not right-wing racist terrorists. I love that. It's ridiculous.
They're still labeled that anyway.
What's that?
And no matter how hard you try, in some places they're still gonna fucking label you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
absolutely. But the more that I printed out hundreds of pages of the pamphlet, and I drop them places, so that locally, right? Locally meaning, you know, like a 30-mile radius, wherever I go and I drop some of these things, or I go to a party and I anonymously drop 20 of these things on a table, people get interested. They pick them up, they read them, you know?
Bro, I should have fucking put those in like the Halloween baskets and shit during Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been cool.
That would have been smart as fuck.
But I agree, like the local
honestly,
level is where we're gonna win, is the local level. That's where we're gonna be okay. That's where we're gonna be left alone.
Unfortunately, I'm screwed in that manner, because my county sheriff isn't elected. County
Yours
decided
too, right?
that we aren't allowed to elect him anymore because we're not competent enough to.
Yeah, no, they're appointed
despite
here.
the fact that we are allowed to vote for our county officials, except for the sheriff.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think on this level, as far as like basing people locally, especially when it comes to sheriffs, the best strategy, like personally, and I think any libertarian who thinks through the issue, their number one issue should be war and foreign affairs. Like, as if we're libertarians and we oppose injustice and a violation of the NAP and murder, there's nothing greater on that scale than what we're doing to people overseas. The millions that are dead, the millions that are going to continue to die, the largest cholera outbreak in modern history happening in Yemen. If we can communicate the reality of what our military and our government is willing to do people overseas and communicate that to our local officials and local communities and demonstrate to them that if they don't care enough about human life, that 100,000 dead in Yemen, just women and children, doesn't come up on their radar, what makes them think that we are going to come up on their radar? And communicating that to them in a way that they're going to understand and realize, like, oh, maybe arming ourselves to be autonomous in an emergency situation is important. And I think that's probably the clearest path forward, is demonstrating to them war and what it is and what the state does and how it demonstrates how little they actually care about our lives and human lives in general.
Well, we know the institution does not care. The institution of our government does not care.
Well, yeah,
Right.
no, I'm just saying how we propagate this message as a best example of saying, like, hey, here's all these dead children. They don't give a fuck. Maybe you should buy a gun and watch out for yourself. And maybe our sheriff should mind his business.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, I just got your point. So on the local level, I know mine are appointed too. And I think everywhere it should go back to, we should be able to vote on those things. We should be able to vote on a lot of things. Same thing with the ATF. Any rules? Well, first of all, the ATF shouldn't exist. We all agree.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Unconstitutional.
Yeah.
No,
should not
down
it
literally.
should exist. It should be a convenience
Heroes,
store.
bro. They're
It
a
should-
law enforcement. You
ATF
watch
should
your
be a
mouth.
convenience store. ATF, DEA, those are two institutions we do not need. So, you know, if you were to legalize all drugs, we wouldn't need the DEA. Why? Because there'd be no more drug dealers, right? Actually, in all actuality, we would be allowing the government in some shape or form to be the drug dealer, which they
They
already
already
are.
are.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say, I mean,
they already are.
Did you forget about the CIA?
Oh yeah. Oh God. You know, the alphabet soup. It's easy to start forgetting these acronyms. You know, it's CIA, DEA, ATF. You know, the list goes on.
EFGHIJKL
Right,
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
right.
back to the same route. I think they are too powerful and we are too uncoordinated for us to take them on head on. I mean, that's just the hard reality we sort of have to face right now. They have a lot of centralized power and resources, and we, despite our best efforts, are still struggling in that field. So if we can basically nullify on the local level the bullshit that they're pressing on a much larger scale, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for them to execute these unconstitutional laws. It's essentially taking what's legal within our process and making them irrelevant to the whole affair. And it's going to make it to where if they try to do anything, it's going to pop up on the radar as an overstep and an offense to humanity. And I think that's basically where the focus should be.
I do want to point something out as far as, so I just had a local meeting with some guys. And when I say local, that's more of a 30-mile radius, not a 10-mile radius. And these guys are from all over and all different walks of life. There's about 24 of them. And all of them said, you know, like, we've been quiet till now, right? But we've always been willing. And I think that on a much larger level, once the line in the sand gets crossed, like, you're going to see these guys come out of their houses locked and loaded and say, okay, you crossed the line.
Enough's enough.
Yeah. And so I think some of us are obviously voice our opinions more, especially those of us who have been banned off Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or, you know,
Only
whatever.
7 times.
Yeah, 7 times. You know, but
Lucky number 7.
I think so we had a meeting to share resources, to talk about, you know, who was good at what and get to know each other, which I will say that these Facebook bans have absolutely gotten me out of my office, off my phone, and into the real world with a lot of people, where we're having face-to-face meetings. We don't want the phone listening. We don't want, you know, we just want to be left alone. And we were able to accomplish that on a local level finally, which I had been trying to do for months, with freedom rallies and things of that nature, getting these guys to come together. And there's no question about politics. It doesn't matter. We don't even talk politics. We talk resources. How can we help each other? What can we do to try to make this situation better without violence? And I think that, you know, there's just a lot more people than we know that are ready to walk out, join the group the moment that the line is crossed. And they don't want to talk about it before then.
Yep, I'm seeing it too.
That's the problem. We're having too little organization, whereas the left, the government, same fucking entity, different fucking outfit.
But you know, the
Are
moment
very, very good at it.
I guarantee, though, we're probably 4-1 against any government agency nationwide.
No, that's
Oh, that's
definitely true. That's definitely true. And here's where the real power of what we do comes into effect, and that's that if you capture these gentlemen's attention on the front of prepping, what you should also be doing is trying to get a more centralized and collective like messaging down. Get how you're going to represent not only yourselves but the ideology, where if any of them come upon an outsider, they're able to communicate this in a way that actually lands on the ears of new people. And that way you can not only spread the prepping mentality and the boot boy mentality, but you can also spread the mentality of, you know, localization and nullification, where when it comes to you having to put rubber to the road on stopping this nonsense locally, you're going to have a much better shot of doing so.
Absolutely. I'm liaising between several local groups right now, and everybody's basically of the same mindset. It's just one, you know, some guys want to call themselves one thing, some guys want to call themselves another, but it's all down to the militant, you know, the militant farmer mindset.
Yeah, and we all recognize, especially those of you who are organizing local groups, it's like we recognize that we're on par in one phase, and that's prepping and training and arming ourselves. But we also need to be ready to communicate these messages and make sure that we don't make ourselves look like the stereotypical image that's being broadcast, to make ourselves look like we actually are, which is different, humanitarian, and relatable, because we are the average man. And it's trying to make sure that we can communicate that message as a group better.
Well, and definitely talking about the NAP more is, I think, valuable, because I know at my local meet, no one really understood what NAP meant. So we sat down, we talked about it, you know, where it's basically just like, we don't aggress unless aggressed upon. We don't yeet unless yeeted upon,
Yeah.
you know? So
That's the thing
Not
is,
all
like,
violence is bad. Not
I
all
don't
violence is
understand
bad,
why
only
everybody
aggressive.
has to have like outrage about freaking everything. Like, just take away the labels, take away the party lines, take away all that shit. At the end of the day, you look at, like, you talk to a lot of people, everyone's in the middle. And if you just want to respect yourself and respect your person that's like on the other side of the table, then do so. But why do you have to be so damn extreme about everything? Like, at the end of the day, like, just respect your party, like, respect everybody else's property. Like, I don't know. But also explain just a tad what the NAP is, because I'm not even quite familiar.
the non-aggression principle.
No, yeah, you're
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
you're hitting an important note. It don't fuck with people unless they fuck with you.
Right.
Plain and simple. Like,
It really is that simple. Like, we could get all into what
think-
the NAP means, but basically it's what does it mean to me, right?
I
Just
mean,
like anything else.
I had a good conversation with the cop. You know, I live in the ghetto, and they're, you know, he pulled me over, whatever. He's like, you know, it's actually kind of cool having a conversation with somebody, da da da. And I was like, well, I mean, if you're gonna respect me, I'll respect you back. Like, that's just at the end of the day. Like, for me, it's the same principle. Like, I grew up religious. Like, I am not gonna put that message on everybody else and say, oh, you're a sinner and you're going to hell because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, I'm not gonna treat everyone, no matter what their principles are, with disrespect unless you disrespect me, period, blank. Like, that's, at the end of the day, that I think that should just really be it. Like, just morally be in line with everyone else for the most part, you know, and just respect somebody. Like,
Just respect each other each step. One of my biggest things is I like to sit down and talk with people, right? And one of my good friends he's a super lefty, super fucking lefty, and I love the guy. And, you know, we see eye to eye on a lot of things. Then there's some things that we don't. And I say, okay, well, we got to agree to disagree on that point because I just don't believe that. I don't believe that you're right. And that's
Wow,
okay.
what
I
a
don't have to.
concept.
Yeah, but
Who would
I
have
don't.
thought?
Right. I don't have to, just like you don't have to believe what I'm telling you. Like, you know, but at the end of the day, we all have to treat each other with respect, you know, and we need to help our neighbors, and we need to, you know, and there should be no laws against me giving a half a dozen eggs to my neighbor because I like my neighbor, right? Like, you know, that's bullshit. I can give my neighbor a steak or a chicken that came off my property without, you know, anyone being involved and saying I can or can't. You know, we've talked about this before, like even something like that in Massachusetts, it's a felony to sell a pig without papers.
I
It's
was
ridiculous.
about to say, sell it,
Yeah, sell it, right,
not gift it.
right.
Can you
And then,
print
of
out the
course,
papers? Like you just get like a set of papers from like the dollar store. You're like, here, here's
Here you go.
papers.
Here's your papers.
Just,
Papers,
like,
please.
gift the pig,
So-
and I will gift you
This is where you just do the "I'm selling this pig" Ron Burgundy.
But you know, like, so why do we have to? Why are we constantly in this game of circumnavigating the law and trying to find ways around it so that we can just be normal? It shouldn't be this
because
way.
they're fucking doing this shit to get
Yes.
around the law.
It's the born and bred. Yeah, it's born and bred into either politics, or you want to malign politics into benefiting yourself or your party, which benefits you probably financially and or otherwise. I mean, at the end of the day.
Well, and the government has just become one big business, right?
Oh yeah.
It's not everything. The government being intertwined in
In
what we buy, how we buy it, and how much money they get from it is bullshit. That was
The
never
government is
meant to be the case. It was never, our government was never meant to be a political organization that benefited from corporations.
And that's a talking point. That's what really, like, what the strength of anarchy over minarchy is that our government started as a minarchy. Minarchy is subjective. It's what you think the minimal level should be, and we started at the minimal level, and look where the hell we are now. 200 years down the road, we're the largest empire on the face of this earth that's ever been seen.
That's because
Every
we
empire
just sat on
falls.
our thumbs and fucking didn't do shit.
Yeah, well, so you know, I was always told like this, right? If you don't exercise your rights, they're like a muscle. They die.
Yep.
We have not been exercising our
Absolutely.
rights for the last 100 years. You know, all these other distractions, money, stock market, you know, now it's video games and fucking social media. You know, we've come a long way from just trying to survive and get by to where we are now. You know, and along the way, the government has manipulated most of the things that have happened. That needs to
That
end.
social
It's-
dilemma movie
it's
on Netflix
like this-
is pretty eye-opening as far as I mean, you know about it, but you don't know to the extreme of which the filter is being put on your phone.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's a whole nother topic, right? Like I unplug Alexa when I'm in my bedroom because I don't want some dude or chick sitting on the other end hearing me bang my wife. You know what I
Have you
mean?
seen those ring
fuck?
hacks? People that hack into people's rings? Oh my
I
gosh.
have rings and I don't have them in the house because, well, for me that just feels like too far, right? Like that's just
Yeah.
kind of weird. So if you're like having a ring alarm in your house, like either A, you're too paranoid, or B, like maybe you're a little bit of a weirdo. It's fine. It's your business. It's not mine. I won't judge you. However, like personally, I refuse to have them inside. I want to know what's going on my perimeter.
Or like you said, turn it off while you're home, like while you're like you don't need it while you're sleeping, or like
Right.
maybe you do. Maybe that is why you want.
Well, the
not
thing is
paranoid.
that doesn't
Like again, are you that paranoid?
that doesn't even matter because when you've got it turned off, they can hack it and just turn it on anyway.
You got to kill the power.
I put a tape with a little sticky on my camera, even on my laptop. since I was like
Even on my laptop,
13 years
yeah.
old. Nope.
I've
I
got
don't feel
buttons.
that.
I've got buttons on my computer to turn off the sound, to like mute me and to mute my video, but I don't even trust that.
They just arrested a principal and a school teacher, or it was a principal and like the tech guy at the school from for that, you know, they gave out all their students laptops, and wouldn't you know that they had been hacking into the kids' computers and had their cameras on, and who knows what.
Bitch.
Yeah.
Watching the kids getting dressed and everything.
And who knows what.
Well, of course. I mean, how many teachers have been nailed as pedos lately? Oh, wait.
I mean, in my city, I think it's like once a week. It's
insane. Wood
when I
chipper.
moved here, it was like every day on the fucking news. I was like, what the hell? Like, we can't hire like not pedophiles? Can we like get this together, you guys?
Wood chipper
What
gopher.
profession attracts what people? Ultimately, like,
That's what the podcast I was talking about earlier, they were spending a lot of time they were thinking or talking about it, about people that there's a science about how P words go and go to the job that attracts those people. You know, they were talking in the sense of Disneyland. You know, look at the bust they've done a couple times, I believe, at Walt Disney World, like, for the love of all things.
Oh, but Disney World is the land of enchantment, and nothing bad can ever happen there.
So I think getting back, the whole original beginning topic was the ATF and their new bans, or their bans they want to sign in. And just basically, it sounded to me like they actually wanted us to send in firearms so that they could be the judge of whether or not those firearms were correct and legal. That is what they wanted, correct?
That's absolutely what they wanted to do, simply because they didn't make any form of actual statements on what the qualifications were.
They're too vague.
Just like when they fucked with Q.
They did that on purpose.
It was always a straight back pull. Always. Until they decided they didn't want the fucking honey badger, the sugar Wolverine, or whatever the fuck, sugar weasel. That's what it is. Until they didn't want him selling those anymore. And then suddenly, oh, hey, instead of pulling straight back from the trigger, hey, let's put it back up to the top of the stock. When in literally every other
gun owners are right.
Yeah.
You're not going to send in your guns.
Yeah, right. Like, who in the fuck in their right mind is going to trust the ATF? And I'm sure some people will. But who is going to trust
people that are actually supporters of the NRA?
Yeah, well, so
Come
I
on,
stopped
bro.
being.
They defend our rights.
Oh yeah. They're not part of the corrupt.
That's totally why the acronym doesn't stand for negotiating rights away.
Yeah, no, they're definitely at this point, in my mind, part of the corrupt system that is in place, known as the ATF or our government. There's another organization I've been looking at, the National Gun Owners Association, I think it's called, NGOA. And they seem to really be on point. I know that the Citizens Defense Leagues, like in my state, they're really good at going after laws. They all follow the law, but they're really good at going after laws and trying to get them changed in the state. They don't get much traction, but they have ongoing lawsuits for the state of Connecticut where they banned AR-15s, which you can buy an AR-15 other. You can buy a Mini-14. You can buy something that spits a 5.56 or a 2.23. So why it matters, what kind of AR it is beyond me. I think we were just, pandering to some group like we usually do. So that being said, I think those small, more grassroots organizations are going to be the ones that actually try to, defend our rights as far as the 2A movement. Yeah, the Second Amendment is written not as if there was felons, not as if there was just, it's for anyone to bear arms for the purpose of having a militia to keep our government
the founding fathers blatantly stated many a time over, once you have served your time, you get your rights back.
Right. Well, I can tell you.
some of our best friends are going to be the NGOA and the GOA, the Gun Owners of America.
Right.
Yes, GOA all day.
And I like
Yep, I'd
my
be heavily invested
personal
if I had any money.
yeah. My personal experience is that I became a felon for marijuana back in 1998, and because of that, I have forever lost my gun rights. And that is bullshit. I served my time a long time ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and then to try to reverse all that, especially nowadays, I mean, you're
You're
paying
saying farm
thousands and
all
thousands and
The
thousands
paperwork,
of money.
the paperwork involved is insane. I have it
Yeah,
right
years
here.
and years of paperwork, and how much has it cost you so far?
and grams.
So
If you,
far, it hasn't cost me a ton of money, but by the time it's all said and done and I have a hearing, it'll probably cost me around $5,000. And that's doing it the cheap way. Most guys spend anywhere from 10 to 20. I'm doing all the footwork myself.
Is it legalized in your state now?
It's legal for medical
Medical
purposes.
patients.
Yeah. Maine and Massachusetts have made personal use legal up to 2.5 ounces.
I mean, maybe by the time you're on your deathbed, it'll be legalized federally.
Right? Maybe.
Shit. Perhaps.
all
You know,
right, all right.
That's optimistic.
Prohibition of anything doesn't work. All it does is create revenue for privatized prisons, and they're able to take our guns to add to their arsenal, or take our drugs and destroy them, which I don't know if they actually destroy them or just resell them to the next guy, you know? So,
Oh man, I love the videos of them burning weed fields. Hey, we're gonna prevent you from smoking this. Hey, this whole town down the fucking down the jet stream
High
from you
as
is gonna
shit.
have cow to smoke this.
they got a
All of a sudden,
freebie.
this whole town downwind is hungry.
Yeah, they ran out of Cheetos and fucking Ruffles real fast. But like, didn't we learn from Prohibition the first time? Now, what a lot of people.
No. What's the point of learning history if we're gonna be?
That's
I'm
bold
right,
to
like-
assume the government learns anything.
I know. And not only so, that was around the time that what a lot of people miss or don't know or forget is that not only did they prohibit alcohol, but that's the point where they prohibited all other drugs too. Because up to that point, you could buy heroin or cocaine or mushrooms or LSD. You could buy a lot of those things right at the pharmacy. You could buy cough medicine that had oxycodone in it, which we all know is Percocet. You could just buy it over the counter, no big deal. Send it. You didn't need a doctor's note. Why did they make that shit illegal?
And in the money.
Money.
In the
Money.
pot.
That's it. Who the
I mean,
fuck
hell,
are
I
they
think
to prohibit our use of anything? Who the fuck are they?
I mean, we literally have a mob museum out here that literally is just pretty much there's just constant walls of like dead bodies. Like the mob was like about just like illegalization of fucking alcohol. So like we're just gonna keep that trend going, America. All right. All right.
No society should ever have a government that prohibits anything except for something that would like hurt someone else.
Yep.
I don't know. They seem to
Like-
do a lot of nothing about pedophiles these days. So I want to take a second to look into all that shit.
So Trump,
Well, I mean, the man who was sitting in the second highest office is basically openly pedophile.
Yeah, I gotta go, guys. I'll catch you later.
All right, brother. Sorry you couldn't stay. Have a good night.
the Orange Man did do a good thing. He did a good thing. There's a black gentleman that I don't remember his name, but he actually sent a shout out to President Trump because under a bill that I believe Biden signed or had something to do with, this man got 20 years in prison, federal prison, for selling marijuana. And he was pardoned by the Orange Man during his administration, which I think is awesome.
If you're gonna start freeing people for marijuana charges, just sign the bill already. Just
sign it and
just
send
legalize it.
Well, see,
Smoke
that's
the weed.
thing about
Legalize
the thing
it.
about that is, sure, you can sign the bill, but you're not even going to be able to pass a federal bill that will release everybody that's sitting on fucking,
No, but if it stays in
marijuana
motion at
charges.
minimum, at least, would
And it's not
hopefully.
going to, and the big thing is not that it's not going to expunge their record. That's the
No.
biggest problem. So Trump has to fucking pardon them, which I think expunges that particular charge. Because I think the presidential pardon invalidates.
It's just, I mean, then you have to take a whole look at the privatization of the prisons and just how ass backwards literally everything is, and
Baby
all
steps.
of this.
Baby steps. Listen, we all are, I think, of the same mind, is that, at a certain point, you may have to burn the whole system down and start over.
I've been saying that. I didn't
right.
mean it literally, everyone.
For a long time. I think we've all heard of the Convention of States. That was one. Right, the Convention of States. So if you get 33 out of the 50 states, this is to sign the Convention of States, we basically get to start over. Now the question is our political climate right now the right climate to sign that Convention of States or not? Because if we're starting over,
48 hours.
I guess we'll find out in a few days.
give it 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anyone think that it's possible? So we know from experience that they will shoehorn anyone into office that they want in there, right? We know this from experience. As a culture, as a society, our president is not elected by us. Does anyone here think that they will shoehorn Biden in?
I think honestly, the only reason I want Trump to win, I mean, I don't like him for more reasons than I can count, but the only reason I'd want Trump to get in is because I know that would make a lot of states so much closer, damn near probably to the point where they would threaten secession. And I think as libertarians, that's the ultimate goal, is if we can get more states to secede and more things to break down and the divorce to start taking place, then we can actually realize that maybe 50 different states with this many different people and this many different fucking personalities, populations, and cultures shouldn't be under one banner. And I think that's the way forward, is getting the left to start the secession movement.
So states seceding from the union.
The thing is, they're never going to do it in that manner. As you can see in Philly right now.
California's governor referred to California as a nation state in his address this year.
California got the people to vote and bring it to the state house to actually secede from the union, and that was recent. So it's in, I believe it's sitting at the state house for them to sign off on, and then it goes to the Senate. I don't know if I'm right about that, but I did definitely read an article where California was moving forward because the people voted to secede from the United States.
Yeah, but California government's never going to do that because they're so far in the hole that they as a state hold more than 10% of our federal debt.
They also rolled out a program, a 2-year program, where basically the way the article read was that anyone who needs the help for the next 2 years is going to get paid, and they're going to get a debit card. Sounds like fucking socialism to me.
Uh-huh. Shit, I might just do a quote-unquote move to California. I'll get an address out there and take advantage of it. Just have them ship the money to Pennsylvania.
That's the thing with like unemployment. Everybody's like, why don't you just file in California? And I'm like, I don't know if that's like a crime or not. And I mean, I could probably get away with it for how much time I just haven't worked this year.
Yeah, so just claim you're Mexican. They love you in California.
Yeah, I am Hispanic. I got some bread. I got it. I'm just, I don't.
I'll just claim. It'll just claim I'm illegal Russian.
Well, I tell you, if you ask me, part of the whole COVID deal was to squash as much small business as possible, so we became reliant on the large corporations like Amazon. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I invested in Amazon in the past 5 years, and I am making a butt ton of fucking money off Amazon. That being said, I have struggled with whether or not to sell things like Amazon or Apple because, you know, I'm just part of the problem, right?
Wait
Like I
till
do
after
my
Christmas.
right.
But I'm sure his ex-wife really appreciates your money.
I'm sure she does. But I know that, you know, at least in Connecticut, I don't know what the numbers are elsewhere, but about 60% of small businesses have closed their doors forever. Places that I never thought would go out of business because they've been a staple in my life for the last 40 some odd years. You know, Arrow Paper and Party Rental, local party company, really good people, always run a straight small business, family run. They just closed their doors and auctioned everything off. Never ever thought they would go out of business.
I mean, I just finished 1,600 hours of school with, you know, I pretty much 2 years, worked 2 jobs at one point full time. And I mean, everything was shut down literally in a day. And I got let go because I got tested for COVID, and I got let go the day after I got my results back. So life's been really fun. I was like, what is the point? What's the point?
I know my wife's in nursing school, and I'm like, what's the point, honey? Like, you know, like I get, you know, I get what you're trying to do.
Because we're gonna need medics.
In New York, like, I mean, this asshole, like, he literally forced them to have to let COVID patients in, and now they're on the bridge of losing their job. So wait, so you just put everybody in harm's way, and now you're putting a predicament. Now not only people have been dying, but you are gonna have to let these people go. Like,
if there's a great society zuckening, Cuomo will be going with.
Hey, but his girlfriend, his daughter's got a really cool boyfriend, I heard.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he got sent to upstate New York towards the border of Canada. They literally transferred him as far away as they possibly could across the state. That's how much power these people have.
Not even that big of a state, and he's just like,
not. I've been through Manhattan, so everybody's moving out of the city. Everybody's moving into places like Connecticut, Mass, New Hampshire, Maine. And of course, they're bringing their bullshit ideas with them. They're going to do the same shit. They're moving out of a state to another state because they don't like the laws that they helped create.
Right. They don't like the overpopulation and the taxes and everything else.
Californian.
Oh.
I didn't move.
Yep.
But it is happening.
Y'all are all moving over to Vegas. Y'all stay home. We're good. We already got freaking Sisolak, who's a piece of freaking hot garbage.
So yeah, so LA and New York, everybody's coming out and they're buying properties all over, which is actually really fucking up our property market.
Yep.
And it's also
fucking up the local taxes, fucking up the property market.
And if you drive through Manhattan, it's an absolute fucking nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's bad. I couldn't believe it. I love the city. And I drove through Manhattan and things are boarded up. Things are burned down. Things are closed. And it's like a ghost town.
So sad.
It is. It's sad. It's very sad. But
honestly, it was needed, though. We need to decentralize. But on top of decentralizing, we need to beat the stupid out of these fucking people that are decentralizing. I mean, look at Colorado. Look at Montana. Look at fucking, in Vegas. Look at
it's up to the people.
Arizona, New Mexico, Texas.
The people have
threatening Texas is going to turn blue for fuck's sake because of the number of Californians moving the fuck out.
It's just calming. It's calming people down. It's cooling down the outrage culture. It really just needs to people need to check themselves, and then it's really okay. Then you reestablish this whole, oh well, he's on the right, he must want to take all the LGBTQ's fucking rights away. And it's literally not yeah, sure, there's a fucking religious majority, sure, but you're gonna say every single person on the right, just like you're gonna say everyone on the left is what do they, I don't freaking know, but everybody wants to be super extreme on that side and say oh, we're gonna help literally everyone. Okay, well no, let's have a middle ground. It just doesn't make any sense. Why has it got to be so damn extreme?
See, there you're even feeding into the media. Oh, the left is going to help everyone. That's their bullshit.
I mean, I'm just saying like the normal
yeah.
blabber jabber bullshit.
So yeah, no. So most people live in the middle, but it's up to people. It's up to the people to change these things. And the problem is there's not enough people that will stand up and say, you know what? I don't give a fuck how you live over there. I'm building AR-15s too. I'm growing weed in my backyard too, you know? And I don't personally, I don't judge. One of my favorite cousins is gay as the day is long, and I love the shit out of her. And I love her wife. They're amazing people. If we have stopped looking at people as people, and we look at people for what they are, they're gay or they're, you know, into drugs or they're into punk rock.
If they're painted blue and like eating pumpkins, then you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, right.
Like, what's it matter?
But we as people, as the larger society, need to start looking at each other as people again, and not what we may or may not represent. It's, you know, the way we live is up to us. You don't have to love everyone. You don't have to like anyone. Well, what I was taught, especially in recovery, was you do have to accept everyone. You just have to accept them for who they are, and try to see through that, to see the real people underneath that. And those people need to stand up and say, this is how we want to live. And we don't really give a fuck how the rest of you feel about it. You can like us or not like us, but we're not bad people.
I think the biggest issue with society today is that everybody has been taught for years how fucked up they are, when in a lot of cases they aren't. Because, I mean, how many, it's been what, 3-4 decades now that kids have been being pushed on Ritalin for being a little hyper?
Yeah.
I get it. Some people it does help. But there's so many people out there on it today, and they think they need to be on it every day because, oh, I can't pay attention to just one thing at a time. And that makes me feel weird because I've been taught that that's bad. No. Unless
that actually helps me. That actually helps me. Being a business owner, a small business owner, I have to answer the phone, go back to what I was doing on the computer. Then I have my family who's right not far from me, and they need something, right? Or I need to jump up and go do this or go do that. And I'll be doing 10 different things at once, but I can keep track of them without any medication. And I'm actually good at doing it because of the way my brain works. And I was told I was one of those hyper kids. They stuffed all different kinds of drugs down my face. And you know what that taught me? That taught me that if I medicate myself, I'll be okay.
Yep.
So that kind of fed into the narrative in my brain that you know went along with addiction, where it was like, oh, this drug actually works the best, so I'm gonna keep doing this because it feels the best. And I self-medicated for years. Fucked my life right up.
And that's another big part of the problem. In addition to teaching kids that they're fucked up, instead of teaching them ways to cope, which would actually solve the situation potentially,
Throw drugs out.
They shove pills down your throat.
And then that goes all the way back to the mental health thing.
I was made fun of for years and years in school, but they never sent the kids that were doing and that were making fun of everybody for therapy. They sent me for therapy to deal with being made fun of. Therapy that I didn't need in the first fucking place. It's like
it's all very backwards. The system is all very
Yeah.
backwards. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I have a daughter who she's on a medication she doesn't have to take every day, and it helps her for like school, right? But it's for like a period of hours, and then it wears off, and she doesn't take it all the time. But the whole point of it is to teach her while she's taking medication good coping skills so that she can come off of that medication. And even at that, like we have her off of it for long periods of time and she does really well. And with the medication, especially in this new school program where everyone's at home, it helps her be focused on her computer and like what she's got to do. And she's getting really good grades. So medication can be helpful, but it's not the solve. It's not the ultimate,
it's not the beat all end all.
No.
It's the same thing with like the opiates and all that stuff. Like, yeah, I don't know if any of you guys watched The Pharmacist, but it's a really good movie series on Netflix. And he was just like, it's cool, like when you have a surgery and you have a neck injury and like you do it and then you like lean off of it. But if you're doing it and then you keep doing it and then you keep on doing it, like it's not meant for that. Like you're like anything else, you're supposed to work through it, and it's a helpful tool, but it's not meant to be your end all be all.
I'm part of the class action lawsuit for OxyContin.
Have you seen the stuff about the company finally being
8.3 billion?
Sued?
Yeah, they settled for 8.3 billion. I don't know how many people are part of the class action, but I did get an email because I was part of the class action. And so I had a work-related accident in my right eye where I had to have a series of surgeries, and I was on OxyContin. I was on Percocet. I was on all kinds of shit. And then when that was over, I went on methadone. And that's just a whole nother crutch, right? Methadone is fucking disturbing. And then, I came off methadone and I went to prison because I did all kinds of fucked up shit to keep getting heroin. And, and I'm not a victim. I made all these choices, right?
Sounds like a party.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I tried Suboxone too. And I got just as high off Suboxone or methadone as I did off heroin or Oxycontin or Percocet. Drugs like that, look, I think that drugs like that have their place, but they were way over prescribing.
Watch that series, The Pharmacist. They talk a lot about, because that company, pretty much what they would do is, so yeah, they prescribe it, and they had all their farms everywhere, all over the place, which is a problem in its own right. But then pretty much they would do it, and they're like, oh, well, sorry about it. Here, we'll put you through a system. Well, the system was giving you drugs to pretty much wean you off of it, but still keep you addicted to it. But then, of course, as it goes with recovering with anything, you'd go and hop back on it and they would be twice as bad. So they talk a lot about all that stuff. And it was pretty much like they were feeding people into their system to refeed people into their system. And it was just all bad.
Treatment has to be, if you're doing a medical treatment as well as a therapy treatment. And look, what I can tell you as an addict is that if I wanted to get high, I would. I don't need anyone, I'll go get high. Like, it doesn't matter what the law says. It doesn't matter, like, all these programs. I literally spend time in rehabilitation centers where I see the same people go in and out 8, 10, 12 times in a year. It's not, I woke up one day and decided that I need to get clean, and I went to a rehab. Now, in that rehab, they wanted me to be on these other medications, and I said, no, I won't do it. I want to get clean. I want nothing in my body anymore. And then I had to go seek a program, which I can't name, but it is a 12-step program. I started going there and getting treatment because that's what I wanted to do. And that was the best treatment I ever got, and the only way I ever stayed clean. It's because I wanted it. Addicts, if they don't want to get clean, they're not gonna. But to keep them on this to keep pulling money from the state for these people to be on these programs is just awful. It keeps them on a hamster wheel. And they keep telling them, this is the answer. Suboxone is the answer. Methadone is the answer. It's not the answer. And there's so many things that they do that with. That's just like my personal experience with one thing. There's so many things that they do that with to keep draining the state and the public for money. And rent.
I mean, the state pushes it because it's either do that or go to jail. And a lot of the state, the politicians anyway, get kickbacks for this shit.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're all invested, right? So when did it
it's like
become okay?
It's like the story of the judge that sent over 1,000 kids a year to a fucking juvie. Because the juvie was getting paid by the state for them, and the juvie was giving the fucking judge kickbacks.
So the government, to me, like, so if I became mayor, I've actually talked about this with a good friend of mine. He's a Republican. He's run for mayor in my town. And he has a small business, but he's also on different boards and things of that nature. And we talked about this. Like, if you became mayor, would it still be okay? Or any more high level position, right? Like, I have a problem with the local zoning board because one person in particular owns a small company. He's on the zoning board and he does business here in the town. To me, if you're a small business owner or you're a large business, doesn't matter. If you're involved in government, if you decide that you want to be involved in politics and take a job as a mayor, you should no longer be able to operate in that town. So if I became mayor of my town, I would not operate my plumbing and heating company within the boundaries of that town because it's a clear conflict of interest, especially not for the town or the state, because I have influence. That should never be the case.
Yeah. Oh man, this governmental building needs it. Oh man, I should pay myself.
Right. So, I think that government and corporation is a huge problem. I think that no government official should be able to be invested in any one company. Look what happened right when COVID started. People started selling off stocks. That would be called insider trading if you or I did it. Right? But these senators, these governors started selling off stocks because they knew that they were going to tank because COVID was about to hit.
What if I were to tell you that government is just simply never the answer? What if it's always corrupted? What if it can't exist as a entity without being based on something that is unlawful, unethical, or immoral?
Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Is that what we're getting at?
I mean, it's just to do with the fact that government, by its very nature, is a monopoly on violence that is used to coerce people into choices they wouldn't normally make.
I'm 100% in agreement. The thing is, as we have seen with the empire building of the U.S., when you just disband the government, there is suddenly a disastrous void. What we need to do is step it down.
I believe we have to have some representation. We have to have some people that we elect to help navigate our society at this point. It's become too big.
Step one, I would think that the necessity of representativeship is perhaps part of a Stockholm syndrome with the state, the idea that you can't imagine a world outside of having to have someone speak on your behalf. But two, living in tight-knit communities where you're all in agreement and agree to certain things is not outside the bounds of anarchy. There's this thing that Hans Hermann Hoppe put forth called the covenant community, which is if a certain amount of people agree to bind themselves together in an agreement and say that they won't allow X, Y, or Z, they're not violating anybody's rights. And that's essentially a township. And the township is really as far as any local government should go. Because ultimately, if I'm like, look, I don't fuck with this township's drug laws or their sexual inhibition laws or anything like that, I should be able to untownship myself and cut myself from their services and fend for myself. And that's an area where it really can take root, the idea of voluntary agreement.
I think human nature is that, so you have people, and I see it like, especially in the trades, right? You have people that are natural born leaders and step up and are that's just who they are. And then you have other people who are just workers and that's just who they are and they're happy like that. And I think kind of the natural order of things, human nature, like it's ground into our DNA, is that there are leaders and there are followers, and that's just how that works. And it's like a very natural, just like coyotes, there's an alpha, right? Just like every animal out there that's a pack animal, like there is an alpha. And I think that's just the way it works. So I think there always has to be some kind of a hierarchy, because that's just how it goes. But
Can't you choose your alpha though?
yes, that's where I was going with that. Thank you, TFTB. is we should be able to choose our alpha, and we don't get to. The system has become so corrupt that it's whoever they want in there is going to be in there.
Yeah, voting doesn't mean shit. I mean, at least not on the federal level. Because there's no way in hell. First off, I'm all for shit, I'm having a brain fart on the name. The representative system that each state has for like the presidential election, the various electors given by the state, based on the fact that it shows that our votes don't fucking count to everyone. Because there's no clearer way that we could say your vote matters than by having unelected appointed officials that have no penalty for not following how your state votes.
Well, now didn't they have a Supreme Court hearing about that recently, where so actually, like, Hillary technically won in the last election, but because of
State electoral college vote.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They overrode that. Now I believe that there was just a Supreme Court ruling that they can't do that again. So however your state votes is how your electoral college has to vote. Now we don't have enough representatives, so
there's actually
statewide electoral voting sucks. Proportional is the way to go.
Yes.
California's fucked. All 50 of our electoral votes go left because LA and SF decide so. It doesn't matter what the other 30% of people think if it's all fucked.
Yeah. Proportionate would definitely be a far better choice for that system. But you are partially correct, Mark. They are still not required to, but they are fined if they do not.
Oh, so they just put a consequence.
I mean, a fine is just
a monetary consequence.
A fine is just legal at a cost.
It's all about the money. Give me them Benjamins.
A fine is just a fine is just legal for a cost. Like if something's fined X, it just means we'll look the other way for a certain amount of moolah.
How much are they being
Doesn't
paid
matter
for
how
their
many
vote?
doves you shoot if you
Cost of doing business. Taxes are the cost of doing business. License fees are the cost of doing business. All these things. A fine is I'm going to do what I want, and I'm just going to pay to do what I want.
Yeah, as you are certainly well aware of, better than the rest of us.
I get fines.
Are just.
I get fines. Fucking fine after fine. I literally have a budget for fines every year in my business. There is a line item. It says fines. Because my accountant and my bookkeeper are smart enough to know, they've known me well enough that I'm going to spend probably $5,000 a year on fines.
Business expense.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It turns into a write-off.
I mean, does it bother any of y'all that our forefathers would have started stacking bodies by now? Like,
it drives
the
me
amount of
nuts.
tyranny we fucking deal with.
Absolutely.
George Washington and his homies would have been stacking bodies by now. What are we doing? As a fucking society, it is sad and disheartening and disappointing.
Well, I think
mean,
that's
the
like
only
the
reason
thing
I'm
too
not
is like,
active is because I don't have fucking weapons because I'm a Californian. I'm
And that's the thing is,
castrated from the get-go.
we're not nearly as old as most countries are. So it's like,
That's true.
eventually we're gonna have a reset. It's just inevitable. Like,
Neither was Rome.
We have gone the longest in history without having some kind of major civil altercation and reset.
I think actually we're only second place to Rome. And the only reason I say that is because we were fitting their archetype perfectly. We're an empire that gets ourselves invested in foreign affairs and spends ourselves to no end and wants to please the populace to the point where we're out of money and no one's really willing to fight for us anymore. And we're on the brink of collapse, just as Rome was.
Yep. I mean, up until last year, we had the Colosseum.
That's true.
Where'd that go with COVID? How many months did they hold? How many months did they hold the dog and pony show back?
One of the things I learned from studying church history is one of the last things that Rome went through before it fully collapsed was a plague. And one of the notable things about that was that all the new Christians in the new Christian church were flooding into the city centers to help plague victims. And the only reason it's recorded is because the aristocrats that were leaving the city took note of these fucking insane people that are saying some shit about Christ heading in to help all the sick people. And that was what was like the end of fall of Rome was a plague. And it's lining up precariously with our own situation.
Yeah, no, the pandemic. The pandemic, we know it.
Oh, yeah. I would even say a big part of that was the lead pipes fucking up everybody's, white blood cell count and all that.
Interesting theory.
Systems.
I'm going to throw out a theory, and it's a theory. It's not written down anywhere. It's not, it's a theory. It's a theory that.
Prophesy for us, Colonel. Prophesy.
Actually, my wife gets a lot of credit here on this one. So we were watching a show recently, and she is being in nursing school. She has been learning about DNA and the CRISPR technique. The CRISPR technique, they're able to cut genes, so they can cut out all
CRISPR.
Yeah. So in this show, everyone got a vaccination for a disease, a fake disease, a pandemic disease, right?
Yep.
It's a show on Netflix. And so these people it was a whole fake show, people dying, and some of that was real. People dying was real. But the vaccination that came out had this technique integrated into it. The theory is that they could do that with this COVID vaccination they're going to push. And you can cut the gene for reproducing, but you can also reactivate that gene.
Yep.
Right? With another shot. Now, that's like the layman's terms, right? Because if you ask anyone that knows anything about science, they're going to explain it way better than I just did. But the theory is that this new COVID vaccine that everyone under 30 has to get. So the vaccine laws in Massachusetts are everyone under 30 has to be vaccinated to go to school or work or whatever. And that's opening the door for this COVID vaccine. So why is it just the people under 30? So the theory is that they're going to try to control reproduction. Huh?
Next generation. So what you were saying, it's like they can turn you off with the first vaccine and the second vaccine turns you off. So then it's sort of a breeding via compliance sort of method.
So the second vaccine
compliant to the second wave.
So the first vaccine would shut off reproduction. The second vaccine would reactivate it. But you have to be, one of the chosen, to be reactive.
Is that what The Giver is the one that was kind of like that, the book, where they pretty much selected you based off of your gifts, quote unquote, some Hitler type shit?
Right. So that's the theory that we came up with watching this show one night. I'll have to get the name.
I will not be taking no motherfucking vaccine. Nope.
Nope.
I don't know if it's just my Jesus learning days, but I ain't about it.
We're over 30. We got nothing to worry about. It's our children.
I'm not over 30.
Oh, okay, my bad.
He's
I am-
talking about the two geezers that are sitting on the top of the screen.
Yeah, right. So no, it's our kids and grandkids that are going to end up with these vaccines, and who knows? But that's just a theory, right? But unfortunately, our world has become so fucked up. It could be it could actually be a viable theory. You know,
I will be allegedly, not so much, maybe allegedly forfeiting doctor's note, allegedly, maybe, possibly.
there's going to be a huge black market for vaccination reports.
No, I
Yep.
know.
Well,
I used to like
put it this way.
freaking
I see
graphic
anybody.
design my freaking report cards because I mean, I literally do it on Word. Like, I don't care.
Hades, it looks like you got 30 votes that count in your hand.
33.
There's 33 votes that count.
Black Stendo mags, baby.
So
But,
I'll have
yeah,
to.
They want to give me. They want to give me an involuntary injection. There's 33 of them sitting right here. There's many thousands sitting elsewhere.
Have you
right
seen the
nearby.
commercial for Songbird? It's a new quarantine movie.
Nope.
Oh my God.
It's a gross.
I mean, that's
first of all.
why I'm marked dangerous, right? I see myself as a Christian anarchist, right? No king but Christ. Like, reason why I'm so dangerous is they can come to my door. I'll defend myself. I'm not afraid of death. Either it's nothing or I'm cash in. Come for me,
Right,
bud.
so I'm gonna
Let's
create
go.
America's baby, or I'm gonna make my own. Like, what the fuck? No.
What do you say?
I
Being
welcome
about
the ATF stack that comes to my back door at 3 a.m.
Well, they saw how Ruby Ridge went, so maybe they don't want to try doing some dumb shit.
Ruby Ridge, the ranch, Waco.
Yep.
You know, the Bundy Ranch. We were talking about this the other night at one of our meetings. Was the original Bundy Ranch and the standoff, you know, between well, I forget which agencies. ATF, I believe, was one of the agencies.
Bundy Ranch
FBI.
was BLM.
Bundy Ranch was
Dude,
BLM.
they
Bundy-
No, the
protest
original
that
Bundy
shit
Ranch.
all the time.
I
The
don't care
original
about
Bundy
the
Ranch.
BLM shit. The Bundys are based. They fought the fucking feds tooth and nail. Let's go Bundys.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
The thing is, from what I understand, they sold out afterwards.
No,
Well,
I think that they're just looking for a wider unionship as far as allies go, and that's why they were willing to go BLM, is because it was the hot ticket. I think it's
So-
more search for relevance
No,
than it is compromise.
No, what I was talking about BLM, but yes, I mean you're right, because Ammon was like, oh, yeah, BLM this, blah blah blah. But Colonel, what I was talking about BLM is the Bureau of Land Management, not.
Yeah.
Oh, correct. Thank
not
you.
the current everyday news BLM.
Yeah, I thought didn't even cross my mind. I was, you know, unfortunately, when you say BLM in this day and age, my thoughts go directly
Yeah.
to Black Lives
I mean,
Matter.
yeah, I can't
So-
blame you for that. That's why.
I mean, you show me in the Constitution where it says that the federal government has a right to land management, and then I'll say okay.
They don't. Why do
Tell
they
me
have a
what
right to
they
take
have
any?
rights over a woman's body and what they do with it.
Thank you.
Have
Yes.
a conversation for
I mean,
that.
I'm not a pro-lifer that's going to vote for laws because fuck the state, but it's a distinct body biologically.
I just don't think that like men and the majority should have like a voting power over a woman's body.
My
Because if
take
a woman
isn't.
did that over a man's body, there would be hell.
You know, I agree.
I mean,
I absolutely agree with you.
My take isn't man or woman. It's not. It has nothing to do with biological. If I were to stab someone in the chest and you as a woman were to say, "Hey, man, you don't stab that man in the chest," it's killing a person and violating their rights. You're well within your rights to stop me, as I am to stop you from killing another human being. For me, it's purely on the basis of whether or not we want to form a stance that's objectively pro-human rights. And if that is the case, then all humans, including retards, fetal humans, the disabled, the comatose, they all have rights unless they sign them over. It's nothing
Do
to
they
do
though?
with gender. It's everything to do with human rights.
Do they?
Well, I agree, but
Yes.
you know what? At the same time, like Abby said, we're men, right? So I don't get to say whether or not a woman does X, Y, or Z with her
If
body.
I knew a majority of deadbeat fathers, of which have been my siblings as well,
My
actually
father.
following through on child support, I might have a different opinion. But seeming that like I have to literally close my lady bits up for shop just for the sole fact that I don't even want to deal with that as an idea, should kind of be enough of a say of which
Well,
I just don't think it's
and
okay.
it's not at all to say what you're saying isn't problematic. The idea that a woman has to restrict herself based on this, it's a problem. But also, there's the idea that you're violating human rights by committing that act, and that's
I
just
think what the
objective.
problem is the fact that people get more time in jail for robbery as opposed to sexual assault.
No, and I wouldn't oppose that. I think
Yeah,
rape is one of the most grievous
Yeah, we're all
violations.
100% in agreement there.
Yeah,
I just like,
rapists,
but I'm just
rapists go
saying
in the wood
like,
chipper
I'm
too.
just saying like when you're looking at what men get their rights, which is typically property, where women is their body, you're valuing man's property versus their body. It doesn't really far-fetched from that as far as being women's bodies, as far as what they do with it.
I mean,
No,
but you also have a say over men's bodies because at birth, guess what? Most women,
I don't see y'all having babies.
Yo, stop cutting the tips of our dicks off.
Well, I mean, look. My argument
Stop
for it is
beating us
beyond-
every day. I mean,
my
what's up?
my
You don't want
pro-life
your dick in the
argument-
middle of a field, then I don't know what to tell you.
So Abby, I think
my,
specifically you're talking about abortion rights and sex work. Is that?
I mean, yeah, I only because I watched Reversing Roe on Netflix, which was I yelled at the screen the whole movie because I was. Long story short, I never really had a personal. Well, I like educating myself because I grew up religious, and I mean, I'm from Orange County, California, which is like one of the very few red hot zones of California.
Woo, Cali.
Yeah, so great. And so it's just so as far as like kind of learning the stuff and just more so the history of where America's stance has been as far as abortions, you know, and the right side and the left side and yada yada yada. That being said, it's just bad as far as what has been done as far as just women's rights to have an abortion. Now personally, the only thing I've ever wanted in life is to have a kid. I know, crazy thought. Don't know, I can't keep a man around.
I'll sell you one.
So that's a whole other problem. But
well, I'm on the other side of the street because I raised my kids myself.
Soil, you have plenty of offers. You're willing to work the soil and be a boog wife. You have 100.
Oh no, like I'm about two jumps away from just moving to Illinois and being on an alpaca farm because my friend already said he'd be a donor. I'd rather do it without a man than have to do it with one and live rent free. So
I have a daughter that says the same thing, and part of the reason is because now she grew up with me. Her mom is a deadbeat. My son's mom is a deadbeat. Like they grew up with me because I was more stable. If you can fathom that, you know,
my dad raised 10 kids. I'm
right.
I get
Yeah.
it.
So women can just be as fucked up as men as far as being deadbeats. But I mean, do we agree that like sex work, it should be up to a woman? That's their business, right?
Oh,
I don't think. Yeah, if you want to be a hooker, that's not my business. Now, if you want to have a third trimester abortion, I take issue with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree with it. I just think that like, but then again, then you're going to backtrack. Okay, well, are they going to be paying child support? Is the dad even going to be around? Is he in prison? Like, did he, R-word you?
Well, then adoption, I think at a certain point, like past the first trimester, I think that adoption should be the rule, right? So like, if you want to have an abortion, you're past your first trimester. I think there should be a rule about that. Okay, so then you have to give that child up for adoption.
Could I interject as the resident pro-life extremist?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so look.
No lives matter. You're all fucking cunts.
On a certain
Hail
level,
Satan.
yes, but on the religious level, I have to admit, no. So there's two prongs to this. One, I'm not trying to tread on you in any way. My real issue ultimately is with the abortion doctor, because that man is profiting off of death and buying a Mercedes on the corpses of countless thousands. That's where the issue really lies. So
But then
so that's
why
one.
aren't we?
One,
Oh, sorry. Oh, good.
hold on. Let me finish my point. I value your input. Let me finish my point. So one, I would say the abortion doctors are where it needs to take, where the action needs to take place. Like maybe a lot less people would be willing to kill babies if the end result was you hanging in a tree. So that's one. Two, if I'm to stay consistent on what a human dictates and whether or not they have rights, that has to encompass the unborn. I don't think someone has the right to kill you just because you're retarded and lack brain function. And that extends itself to if you are human and you are living, you have rights.
We can
that
debate
doesn't mean I
that.
want to take rights away from someone else.
So quality of life comes into play too, no?
Of course not.
No.
No?
Yeah, because if you're, having kids in the slums of Chicago, I mean, heaven forbid you actually go and get abortion for not wanting to have the ninth kid that you can't take care of.
Let me take that to its logical conclusion. If quality of life is going to come into play, then we should just bomb the entire third world and impoverished America right now to save them the suffering of living as poor, right?
Well, no, not
we should
poor,
just
but
kill
like
everyone who lives under
living with severe handicap.
I mean, look.
Like quality of life
that,
as far as your opportunity.
That should be up to
but
the
look
person.
at it this way: a severely handicapped person in the United States is living tenfold better than a fully able-bodied person in the sub-Saharan African plains. Like, quality is subjective. You don't have the right to take someone's life because you think it's somehow below your standard of living. They have the right to life, even if it's horrible, because they will ultimately find value in that life beyond what you could calculate.
And what if they don't have the voice to say, I don't want this life? I know people that have been severely hurt.
What do you mean by voice? Then we could say the mute don't have a right to life.
He doesn't mean literal voice.
Well, just so if someone can't say, I don't want this life, right? Like if I was going to be severely,
if somebody is comatose,
right? Comatose, or even if someone can say in this country, you can't say, oh, well, like I don't like my life and I don't want to live it anymore, so I want to die. You don't get that choice, right? You don't get the assisted suicide choice. And if you commit suicide, the insurance company won't pay.
I mean, like that's where wills come in. It's if you reach to a point of certain competence where you fall beyond the point of competence, you have something written out ahead of time to cover your bases. And if you don't cover your bases and it comes to next of kin, the only problem with abortion is that they were never at all, at any point, sentient enough to come to that agreement. Sorry, say again?
Were you saying more so, Mark, life insurance policies?
Yeah, life insurance policies. If you commit suicide,
yeah, if you commit suicide. I mean, shoot, like, yeah, I just like mental health needs to be very much so taken seriously, so should sex education. I mean, I literally am 20. Actually, I won't even say my age, but I'm in my 20s, and I have yet to this day, other than basic research on the internet, had the birds and the bees conversation. And I've had many opportunities and many siblings and people. I actually just did it by just watching all, 10 of my siblings not doing. Actually, I was told my whole life to not end up like my sisters, to which you can take whatever words out of that you want to. But in like length terms, it's just pretty much don't get pregnant. So yeah, like, I don't know why it's my responsibility. I mean, I've had many other shitty situations happen that maybe like the other side should just be like, hey, maybe don't put hands on a woman that doesn't want to be touched. That's maybe a lesson to teach a kid, but I don't know, maybe not. But if you go back,
No,
but
you're
I'm
right
Come
there.
on,
You're right
who
there.
isn't taught that rape is bad? Come
no,
on.
but you know,
I mean, look, the
I'm
only
being
reason-
highly sarcastic. I'm very highly sarcastic as far as that stuff goes. I'm
No,
just
look,
saying, like,
when it comes to the abortion issue, the only reason why I'm so gung ho on the well, not the only reason. It's a multitude of reasons. I think it's well logicked, but beyond that, like if you ask any objective legislator or something else as to whether or not I should have lived, they would have told you no. My mom had to sign papers, and she almost aborted me because she was signing papers that she thought were birth certificates, and it turns out it was papers to try to get me aborted. I
Yeah.
was at the edge of being murdered, and it's whether or not you ask me whether or not at this point life has been worth living. And I've lived through a lot of hardship. I didn't grow up with a dad. My mom made $5,000 the first 10 years of my life. Like, I grew up in the lowest of low as far as America is concerned. But I find life so valuable still.
yeah, see, I'm not too
And
into that
and
shit.
to me, it's speaking on the child's behalf when you don't know what they could make of themselves.
But
And
whose
it's
right
not
is
me
that?
saying, like, we're it's not stripping the mother of their rights. It's saying, like, look, you participated in an activity. Like, if we want to say, extrapolate for a second, drunk driving, right? Drunk driving does not always violate someone's rights. It doesn't. There are people who get from point A to point
Yeah,
B without
I
hurting
have a
a
lot of
soul.
problems with all of that.
But
I mean, let's just take into account
hold on.
if you're
Let me
married to
finish my
somebody
example.
and somebody forces you to have sex that you're married to. Okay, you know how insanely difficult that is to get in court, let alone dealing with an abortion of a situation you just probably shouldn't have, because now you can't not only get out of a marriage, now you're having a kid with somebody that's literally abused you for months.
Yes, but then
You're just
here's
like,
the
it's
thought,
again, it's
and I understand the amount of emotion behind this issue is worth regarding, and it's important. But here's what's coming to fruition: are you punishing the child for the sins of the father? Like, this child didn't rape you. This child wants a shot at life. Biologically, they are procreating themselves to become a human being. Did they violate your rights, or did the scumbag who raped you violate your rights? And it comes to the point of the judicial system in which retribution should be cast upon the violator, not the product of the violation.
One would hope.
But I think the original subject
and this
was
is
that.
this is a bit nebulous because we're discussing theory. And that's where I say, like, look, the product of that action should not suffer the consequences because of the father. And it's horrible that you have to endure the process of motherhood and childbirth, but that just means that the person who violated you should have to pay extra to make up for the
I don't know.
violation.
I mean, yeah, say whatever they're adopted. Like, I won't adopt kids for the sole fact of the matter that I've seen the way that my friends who are that I've seen friends that have been adopted be treated by their adoptive parents. I will not have, because I know mentally I'm not there. I mean, I love kids I will always take care of a child. It doesn't matter who they are. But just personally, I just know the way my mom treated me, love you, whatever, but just the way my mom treated me and played the mental games, I don't even want to have a chance of that with a kid. And then you want to take, and then you put all the other considerations of just how garbage things can be. There's too many possible bad ways of things going to be enough good ways. I mean, literally, they call them the one percenters for a reason.
The original question was, who should, like, for a woman, right, who should vote on those rights? And I think women should vote on women's rights, right? And men should vote on men's rights, because we're equipped differently.
It's not women's rights, and there's an entire category that's not included in this discussion.
Did anybody else catch that?
What'd you say, TFTB?
Yeah, it kind of cut you out, man.
It's not just women's rights. There's a whole category of humans that's not being included in this discussion because they can't voice their opinions. And
well, so then
the woman, like, it's not
the woman, the mother of that child, gets to decide what goes on with that child before they can have a voice.
But what about the father?
Let's put a pin in that for a second.
Why would the father not get a say at the very least?
Okay,
Hold up,
so
hey,
that's an
let's put a pin
argument.
in that for a second. Let's put a pin in that for a second. Let's extrapolate. If you want to say that's up to the woman to decide, well, then what if it's a single mother and her kid is sick? Should she just be able to decide that that kid just dies?
I mean, a
Is
lot of
that
doctors
within her
offer that
rights?
up. They offered it up when I was being born. They thought I wasn't going to make it.
Well, what doctors do and don't offer up is besides the discussion of whether or not it's ethical and within a consistent basis of human rights. And it just has to do with property. Like, the child has a right to life in the sense that they shouldn't be impeded upon. And this is not a discussion of whether or not what the person
So,
did. He
okay,
fucked
so
up.
if a baby has a high chance of having AIDS, let's just say in an African country, and it's going to be born into that kind of existence, you want to just allow them to suffer for their whole life just for the exact reason of a maybe possibility of existing?
Well, I mean, what's to say that a value? What's to say that someone who has AIDS has less of a right to human dignity than you?
I'm not saying it's less of a right. It's just you want to have somebody suffer their whole life as opposed to not suffering.
Well, I like what Hades
some
brought
people
up.
are born short. Some people are born fat. Some people are born ugly. Life is not a fair takeout where you're born equal.
Yeah, I mean, some kids come out look like they got hit in the face with a frying pan, man.
Oh yeah, some kids look like they got beat with the ugly stick in utero. But I think Hades makes a good point. So what about the father? I think that the father should have a certain amount of say in some situations. But if you're talking about having a baby versus not having a baby because of culture or society or your standing in the community or monetary reasons or whatever, the father should be part of that decision. Because if the father wants to take responsibility and raise that child, I did it with 3 kids. I was more than happy to do it. Their mothers are who they are. But if you're talking about mental illness or quality of life as far as like living life with autism, like major horrible forms of autism, or some
birth
kind
defects,
of virus or birth defects. So I think it's up to the mother to decide.
Hold on. Look, I can personally interject. As a child that was born without a father, I don't know my father at all. He doesn't know I exist. I was born too early, and I wasn't exactly born like perfect. I was a giant at birth, and I was born in the exact circumstances where my mother almost had me aborted, and I was fatherless. So the reason why I fight on this point is because people want to say certain children of my birth we shouldn't allow them to go through such suffering, but I, having gone through such suffering, still think life is worth living.
Okay, but then you take into account, like, even just being a minority.
But the idea that someone could have prejudged that and said that my life wasn't worth living because of a certain standard and to have snuffed me out is ridiculous.
So let's switch gears here for a minute. I think
I was gonna say I'm gonna agree with Colonel. I think this is a little bit of a rough topic.
This could be a whole segment of its own. We're close to election. The ATF is fucking up laws.
I want to at least say to my opponent in this argument, my argument is not coming from stripping humans of rights. It's trying to affirm human rights, and I hope you can at least recognize that much.
Oh, I get it.
Absolutely.
I was born with my intestines outside of my stomach. I had 9 surgeries by the time I was 2 years old, and my mom had just as much of a chance of, having me die too. I get it. I mean, I also know that I suffer with depression and anxiety, and the fact that I've been more suicidal during this quarantine than I ever have in my entire life. So, I get all sides
that's another
of
point of this whole
that's
pandemic.
Fair, but then also we have to take into account that the state exists in this whole equation, and they're fucked.
That was the whole point of what I was saying.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to communicate that mine isn't like trying to restrict rights in some traditionalist view. It's just like I'm trying to find a basis for objective human rights.
I just think for a majority of our country being ran by men and voting on such a women's issue, yes, I do 100. I mean, just as much as I will rep good father in court and have rights to their kid and all that stuff, I will rep the same rights for a woman and having kids and all that stuff. So I play both sides equally as fair. At the end of the day, I just want everybody to have a shot and a voice. Fair and equally, as I believe we could probably all be on the same playing field for.
It might be worth saying that I was also born from birth control. So I come from a particularly extreme circumstance, which is why I fight so hard for it, because in a weird way, I view abortion advocates as saying, like, I shouldn't have lived. When I'm like, look, I'm living a pretty good life despite my upbringing.
Well, as of right now, we are all alive, and we are all staring down the barrel of one of the most important presidential elections since I don't know when. What do you think?
Certainly the most important of our lifetimes.
I keep hearing
Possibly.
that.
Possibly.
But I don't know. I honestly, like Brandon, or whatever his name is here, he's taught me a lot about U.S. history because I just hate it. I think it's super stupid and redundant and just dumb and just literally just a long list of dick measuring contests, in my opinion. And there's a lot more interesting history in many other countries. So I don't know.
I totally agree with Abby. I totally agree with you.
A lot of the dick measuring contests have been
numerous.
Shall we say external forces, though? For instance,
I mean, we literally just were successful for a long period of time based off of the backs of other people being in war. So, like, I get it, but it's just, I don't know. I'm just curious because I literally voiced my opinion, quote unquote, voiced my opinion politically on Facebook, which is the first time my family's really heard anything about my opinion, and was struck down, and I haven't talked to my mother since July. So I am just learning a lot, especially this time around, and there's not any amount of trash juice to cover up what is going on.
Now, who of us actually think that the president even makes a difference? It's the left and the right at this point. For those of us that live in the middle are very few. It's the left and the right, and it's all the senators, governors, state reps. They're all in collusion with each other on the left and right. And you have some good ones, but not very many.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. I'm a far right racist, white supremacist extremist.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I know.
He's like, I don't understand. There's no one running my farm. Shit.
Just leave me alone on my farm, you sons of bitches.
I mean, that's how it started out, right? The founding fathers, the reason that Senate still meets at certain times of the year is because the founding fathers had farms. And they came in the off season and came together to help the legislature, to help form our government, right? Because they didn't make money off our government.
Again, it all comes down to that bottom line, that that last dollar that they can milk out of you. From the founding, the fucking whiskey rebellion, just a couple years into where we are today, it's all about the government taking that money.
Yeah, I just paid property taxes on property that I park on my property that I pay taxes on.
Yep.
I mean, quite
Oh,
literally.
you're interested? You wanna own a car? Okay, even after you've paid the sales tax that gets taken out from the dealership, who paid the sales tax that gets taken out from the manufacturer, who pays the tax for all the parts that they purchased and put together, who to each of those manufacturers. Hey, let's pay sales tax 600 fucking times over on one item.
But at least we saved GMC.
You know, that's another thing.
Yeah.
All these bailouts that got done for all these large companies, right? If we, I'm gonna die on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, God damn it, man! I'm not close enough to give you the fucking Heimlich there.
That was a good hit. So,
We're like calling 911. Hello, hello.
Yeah, hello.
We don't know. It looks like he's in space.
In a capitalist society, right? Why are we bailing out the stock market? Why are we bailing out large corporations? Why is our government? This is so socialist that it's despicable. During COVID-19, for the first time in history,
Oh my
they
God.
gave out an SBA loan to a company, and they said to that company, okay, so here's the deal. Until you pay that back, we own 40% of your company. Right? That was the first time in history that's been done in the US. That is socialism. It has landed. The medical programs are socialist. Like everything is turning to a socialist society. Doesn't matter who our president is. One is going to go faster than the other. That's it.
Oh, but that's state capitalism. And yeah, okay, whatever you say, Antifa.
It's a capitalist socialist society that we live in. And if anyone tries to tell me anything else, I will fight them all day long. Now, I understand that we have to spend some money on infrastructure, but there's different ways to do that that would make a lot more sense. I think that no matter what president comes in, we're still fucked. It doesn't matter. And these Trumpsters, I love them. There's a lot of them that I love, right? But they love Trump, and I'm sorry, but we're still going to have the same fucking problems that we would have under Biden. Just it would go faster if Biden's in office than it would if Trump was in office. It's just going to move.
Hashtag accelerationists for Biden.
Right.
Hashtag I need more alcohol.
Hashtag Uncle
I
Sniffy.
feel like, look, like Trump is about as socialist as a Republican gets. Take the guns first, due process second. Like, what the hell is not socialist about that?
Free
What
men.
happened to the Hearing Protection Act? What happened to the federal carry licenses? What happened to all this shit that Trump was promising on the campaign trail?
Same thing
Fucking
that every
jerk
other
off.
fucking candidate.
Yeah,
does.
exactly.
A lot of shit out their ass.
Yep.
Free men.
One, congratulations, you guys.
So since the government watches every single one of these things, Trump.
First of all, suck my dick.
Texas dick fit boy.
There's two things that you can do that guarantee you will win the election in 2 days. Destroy the ATF. Make marijuana legal.
Legalize
You do that.
Make all drugs legal. It's our choice.
I completely agree, but people are going to fight that. If you make marijuana legal to begin with, then the snowball starts rolling down
We
the
open
hill.
a door. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And you know what? I think part of this is it's going to move very slow. Any change is going to move slow, and we're going to have to fight hard. We're going to have to fight really hard, probably for the rest of our lives.
Oh, absolutely. No doubts.
All change happens slow. It was a slow change to get where we're at. It's going to be a slow change to get back unless Boog actually kicks off, right? In 1775, we were told that we had to give up all our guns. In 1776, we shot the motherfuckers that said we had to give up our guns.
I mean, fuck. Crispus Attucks was the first Boog boy, man.
Right.
I just want to know when all the Boog boys became Trump supporters, because apparently on Twitter they all are, and I just don't know if any of them have ever actually talked to somebody that's a Boog boy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's.
Are you saying I gotta reactivate my Twitter account?
Dude, I literally had a fucking conversation. I was like, have you ever actually talked to somebody that's in, like, that claims they're in the Boogaloo? I'm like, because I have, and you're wrong, because I've never, until at that point it was like maybe that week, but let's just say at this point, let's say a month ago, had ever seen that as even a just kind of fact. Like, I mean, whatever again his name is, the person who's my friend that's associated with this group, I've never ever heard him say, oh yeah, no, we all love Trump. Like, what? Like, I've never heard that ever. Like, media.
Boog
I'll
loves
admit,
no
I
president.
voted. I'll admit I voted for Orange Man Bad,
Me too.
but that was
I've never
because
voted in my life.
he came from outside the system. I had hoped he would at least keep a couple of his campaign promises. And I mean, to be fair, there are a couple he has actually kept, but not near enough. And certainly none of the major important ones. Yes,
I mean,
he
if
has
you
done
look at like what was
decent
freaking
bit to help
Obama's big
business.
freaking promise was freaking Obamacare, and he did it the last few months he was in office. Like,
Fucking
you
hatchet
guys are really
job.
gonna hold such like insane like standards for what?
That fucking whole thing was just a hatchet job, and it was thrown together in pieces. And look, do I think it's necessarily a bad program? There is a place for some forms of socialism in our society that makes sense. Obamacare never made sense.
Nope. It was a shitty copy of Romney Care, and Romney Care is a piece of trash.
Right. Yeah, the only president the Boog will vote for, in my mind, the real Boog
Vermin
members
fucking supreme.
is yeah, right. It's gonna be Vermin Supreme, or it's gonna be, but it's gonna be Mama Joe, right? And even Mama Joe, I have quarrels with. Bottom line, we're always gonna have quarrels with the people that end up in power. However, I have the least amount of quarrels with her. And, if she were to say, yes, I will abolish the ATF and not follow through with that, she wouldn't get voted for again. Bottom line.
80s for president 2024.
I'm telling
passing
you.
my candidacy
I always
now.
make the joke Waka Flocka for Prez. Like, I guess now
Waka
today's
Flocka.
Kanye's the Waka Flocka, but good God.
Oh God.
God, Jesus. Literally, I just have no words, but he has way too many of them, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't.
I wonder this. So I read an article recently where, like, for every 30,000 people, we're supposed to have a representative, right? Which would make our government way larger. We have one representative for about every 140,000 people as it stands.
Holy
right now.
crap.
Right. That's a lot of people.
That's not good math, America.
Math.
Maybe we should work on our education system too.
So is the question smaller government or a more voluntary government society where no one gets paid? Right. So if we have a representative for every 30,000 people, well, that's okay. But public office was always a voluntary thing. Right. So since our society is so large at this point, our numbers are so big that maybe the answer is having more people involved in government instead of less, right? Govern thyself. I believe in that. I also believe that in the larger societal view, people need a voice in other places. However, that voice should not be paid for.
I was gonna say, I was like, do it just like the NCAA does and take out all the you can't have sponsorships. like if college kids can't do it, what makes you think that freaking grown ass adults should?
Right.
Shit.
Right. Exactly. I'm with you. So I don't know what the actual answers are to some of these problems, because I just want to be left alone and do my plumbing. However, I need to have a voice, right? I need to have a voice. We all need to have a voice. And then we have to have a representative to take that voice and bring it to the rest of the people that have the voices of their people. But
like I said, my idea for that. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna make an exit statement real quick because I'm reaching the point of drunk where I'm not exactly coherent.
We noticed.
I was
Your
gonna
arm,
say,
I can tell.
your camera has been on your arm for the past 15-20 minutes.
If there's anything I'm gonna say, it's 1, the state is not your friend. 2, live yourself. Don't ask permission. And 3, prosper. Don't worry about what people say about you. Don't worry about what the government says about you. Those are the 3 rules. 1, the state is not your friend. 2, don't ask permission. 3, live your best life. And as long as you're not diddling kids, you should end up pretty good. I love you all, and I will do you a bid tonight.
Buenos nachos.
Night,
Good night, brother.
TFTB.
Sleep tight. Hope you don't wake up with a hangover.
Oh, Jesus.
He's got some politicking to be doing tomorrow. He's gotta
Oh,
get it
Jesus.
together.
Hey, yep.
Mm.
Politicking harder than ever tomorrow.
Shoot.
But all right, back to my statement. What we need to do is, on top of decentralizing, like I had said earlier, we need to go community by community for these representatives. We don't need, if we're going to have them at all, that is. Like you said, Mark, 140 some thousand people. I'm not even going to check the math on that right now because I'm not too concerned. But it doesn't sound too. Actually, no, that's pretty far off.
Yeah, we're supposed to have a representative for every 30
we're
Literally,
getting-
yeah, what is that, like
we're-
150% like increase of
Yeah, I was gonna say
population per person?
on the federal level, we've got 542 total representatives, and we've got 330 million.
Right.
We're approaching a million people per rep, so that 140,000 is kind of getting pretty
How
far
do you even
off.
know what your people want then? Especially if you live in like in California, if you live in San Francisco or you live in LA, like what do you really know about the outside after that?
You don't.
Dang.
That's the problem. You don't know
even
what
there,
you want anymore. You're so far out of touch with what your people want because you're secluded from them because there's so many of them.
Like the fact that like freaking
And even if you were to get one email from each constituent every year, you would literally have to have a staff of probably a few hundred people just reading the emails to get that done if it was only one per person per year.
and that's the thing with like with these people in power, and let's just say for instance something I had a huge problem with let's just say the Black Lives Matter thing is when I went to the protest and there was such a high militarization of cops being present, the fact that they didn't even really offer a conversation with the people about a topic as that kind of was offensive to me. So it's like, well, okay, so you want to hold such an aggressive take against it, but you don't even know what the people are trying to get, or trying, like the point of, hey, we think all these things are wrong. What are you doing as a politician or as a fucking sheriff to help us feel safer, to help to help the minorities not feel in danger, like, just for example of problematic situations, it's it's the same thing you're saying, like, so how are you supposed to know what the problems of your people are if you're not talking to the fucking people? Doesn't even make sense.
And on top of that, to counter that, the people aren't talking to the politicians either. A lot of people, their only involvement is in 2 days.
I don't know. I see a lot
Yeah.
of people on Facebook that seem to think that their opinion matters for something.
Oh my God.
Well, not
Yeah.
anymore. I don't have one, but
But I'm saying with direct involvement to their politicians, to their quote unquote representatives. The biggest
Very
thing
few.
is
hundreds of people out of thousands.
yeah, hundreds out of hundreds of thousands.
it's part of their circle. It's essentially cult following. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Yeah.
Even so, and he's not even a representative from my district, but he's a friend and he's a libertarian and he's running. Like we have a small faction that has freedom rallies at the Capitol in Hartford. No mask rallies, all these different rallies for different things. And yeah, it's like there's a very small group of people, that's probably a few hundred people that are involved in this, just like the left or the right. Now, we may have a different belief system, which I believe I personally believe it needs to be injected into our society. Whether I'm right or wrong, who knows, right? That's just my personal belief system. But it is definitely like more of a tribalist society that we're moving into at this point. We're getting very tribal over here.
Oh, absolutely. There's no two ways about that.
But
I mean,
that's
just
the
look
way
at any
it is with. Go ahead.
You go for it.
No, well, just in summary, it's the whole thing with labels and groupthink, and just everybody wants to be a part of something, and or I was gonna say something. Something earlier is one of my favorite parts of, really lame and cheesy, but High School Musical was they have this song called like "Stick to the Status Quo." It's like the band geeks were with the band geeks and the drama nerds and the sports people, and it's just like. But in the song and in the movie, everybody switches things, and they're like, "What is happening? What's going on?" Like. They couldn't think in high school that you could be a part of everything. You didn't have to be a part of a certain clique. Where it's just, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's the same thing.
No, I get it. I get it. Agree to disagree. Agree to disagree and be friends with each other no matter who you are, and see each other for the people that you are, and
Right.
try to come together on freedom and liberty. And
I just think like it's so less toxic to do that. Like if I would have had an opportunity to have conversations with people on the outside without, those tinted glasses that I was given as in a Republican Christian household, growing up, I think that would present so much more opportunity to be open, as opposed to, a lot of the cases when people jump on the far left of everything and they're anti-religion and everything, because you create this realm, one way or another in whatever household you're around, it just doesn't make any sense. Go ahead.
A big part of it is the tribalist thing that they throughout kids' lives anymore. They're teaching them factionalism, tribalism. You can't belong with everyone. You have to have your clique. You have to have this set of friends. Otherwise, you're, a weird one. Like, I wasn't particularly a jock, but I hung out with a lot of the football guys in high school because I played football. I played fucking D&D too. Like,
yeah, me too. I was friends with the stoners and
do what seems fun to you.
I was friends with the jocks and the stoners and the punk rockers and the heavy metal kids and the rap kids. They were called wiggers back in the day. And
a lot of them still are.
right. And I got along with everyone because I saw the advantage of being friends with everyone. I saw the advantage to knowing different people in different places.
You have to like, and I just don't understand it because I've always questioned everything and everyone. And like, I stood up, there's one girl I went to school, I still don't like her to this day. It's an ongoing joke with me and my friend. But, I stood up for somebody, she was like making fun of this new kid. And I was like, what the hell's your problem? Like, what is it that you have that he doesn't? Like, why are you being such a douche? Like, and I was in like 8th grade, but I just didn't understand that, like, why do you think you have a superiority over someone that you don't fucking know, and you don't like there's nothing that makes you special. Like, I just don't get the whole bullying aspect of just the way everything is now.
I mean, I think a lot of us have experiences like that. Otherwise, we wouldn't really be in the mindset where we are. Because, I mean, right now, we're trying to help teach other people to stand up for themselves, and we're standing up for them how we can.
Stand up for yourselves, love each other, don't judge each other.
And don't be afraid to speak. But if you're going to speak, don't be an ignorant ass either.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean,
good luck.
Yeah, right.
I feel bad for not thinking to ask this before he left. But let's start with you, Colonel. Your opinion on the whole Boog movement and why you got involved. Just a short summary.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a believer in freedom and liberty. I'm a constitutionalist. And I believe that, you know, this is going to happen because it happens in every society, and I would like to get there peacefully. However, let it be known that I will lock and load with everyone else when the tyranny gets further out of hand than it already has. I am a libertarian, and I believe that the Boog movement is really just a bunch of freedom-loving motherfuckers that just want to be left alone. And, you know, we look at human rights, you know, whatever the laws that are in place are bullshit. You know, the only laws that should be created are ones that have a crime with a victim attached to it, right? So it shouldn't be a crime to grow weed in your backyard or raise chickens or have firearms or, you know, like if you're over 18, bang your cousin. Who gives a shit, man? Like, not my problem, not my business, right? As long as you're over a certain age where you have,
or you're both under.
or you're both right. If you want to bang your cousin when you're 14, that's, you know, between you guys. But, you know, all that being said, the Boog movement to me very much says, don't judge each other, love each other, work together for freedom and liberty. Doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what your sexuality is. It doesn't even really matter how old you are. You know, it's just a bunch of people getting together and saying, we want to work together to get back to freedom and liberty, no matter who you are, you know, and what you want to do with your life. It's your business.
Well said. Ms. Blackbird, your personal opinion?
Oh God.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, because I haven't like really established anything. I more so was just kind of taught. I mean, I was brought into the show essentially just to kind of help organize it back when in its origin days. But I mean, when it comes down to like a lot of things we talk about, I feel like I'm a lot in line again, because in my opinion, a lot of it's a moral thing. I mean, have a right to your property, have a right to your body, have a right to protect people that should be fucking protected. Like at the end of the day, those seem like pretty typically morally just ideals.
Pretty common sense concepts.
I mean, common sense isn't so common, so we all know how that goes. But geez, I don't even know what to say other than just like, I don't really, I don't really associate obviously with any specific party or politician or just really just anything. So I have a lot of research I've done into the Innocence Project and a lot of research I've done into End the Backlog, and those are two organizations I really take time to learn about and invest in. So I'm just trying to stand up for what's right and learn and educate myself, because I think that a lot of the times that people don't, and they just listen and they just read what everybody else is saying instead of becoming part of the hate mob. I'm going to learn what everybody's saying and then take it into account. So as far as the boot goes, I don't know as far as that all goes, but I do know that there are not all Trump thumpers, contrary to Twitter and what the media wants to portray. So yeah, that.
But what about you, Hades?
I knew this question was going to come back on me. No. So, brief summary, I grew up in a Republican household.
Fun. I couldn't tell by the cowboy hat.
Started out, huh?
I said I couldn't tell by the cowboy hat.
I mean, normally I'm wearing this beauty, but she is soaked right now. Yeah, I got doused on earlier today. But like I said, I was raised in a Republican household. Somewhat similar circumstances to our recently departed friend. So my birth mother, had a falling out with who was supposed to be my father, and he took off, and now she was Catholic, so she was never much for the other A. So she gave me up for adoption instead because she knew she was at a situation where she would not be financially stable or capable of giving me the life she thought I deserved. So the folks that adopted me, beautiful folks. I love my parents. But I grew up in a Republican household, and my dad to this day is still staunchly Republican. I've talked with him about Mama Joe a number of times. My mother prefers to stay out of politics, unfortunately, because it overwhelms her. I mean, and to be fair, there's a lot of people out there that get overwhelmed by it. But so, having grown up in a fairly staunchly Republican household, where, like I said, my dad's not even considering other options, I started the Young Conservatives up in my school, and was even shamefully pro-Bush and all that good crap. But after hitting college age, yay college, I didn't go liberal, certainly not modern liberal anyway. But coming through all that, I started to grow and realize, especially because of all the bullshit Bush pulled while I was in high school and going through college, like losing so many soldiers, losing so many innocent civilians in the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, that we really shouldn't be there. And that started me off on this path. I started doing more and more research into these things. Yes, the media was lying about us finding WMDs. We did find WMDs. But at the same time, why is it our place to go into Iraq and take their WMDs? If Saddam's going to be using it on his own people, as much as I support the human right to life, first off, he didn't kill nearly as many as our war did there. Plus, the whole destabilization afterwards is killed even more people. So, and it all spiraled out of control to here, where every government function is an infringement upon human rights.
It's not their business. Bottom line.
Yeah.
No one's minding their own business anymore.
Nope. The whole joke movie, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, America World Police, Team America World Police. It's exactly what we are. Now, I will say a lot of countries are asking us to do it, but we should be turning them the fuck down.
Oh, NATO and the WHO are both New World Order situations, right? We already have a New World Order in place. We have all these other countries involved in WHO and NATO, right? And the UN, right?
Yeah.
So that's already happening, and it shouldn't be. We should be minding our own fucking business.
Absolutely. Like I've been saying all throughout this podcast, we need to fucking decentralize. At this
Burn it all
point,
down.
I don't exactly trust humanity dissolving nations and working community to community yet. But I absolutely believe, deep within my heart, that humanity is still good enough that it can be done. It will take several generations, but I have enough faith in humanity still, after all the shit, that we will be able to fix things and bring it back to where people are fucking people and see each other as individuals and humans of worth again, instead of just fucking numbers.
If we don't do it, our race will be extinct. We will kill our planet. We will kill off our race, the human race.
I mean, we'll kill the planet as we know it. I'll put it that way. There is very, very little that humanity could do to actually destroy Earth.
That is so true.
It will renew itself, and if we kill ourselves in the process, it will be as if in 50,000 years, it will be as if we never existed.
Oh, yeah.
It's the end of the world
As we know it. I don't feel fine, though, I gotta tell you.
No.
Yeah, I'm getting all my joints. You're all aching. My damn knee keeps going out on me. My shoulders are. My back just won't get straight no more.
These damn kids out here.
These damn kids.
Hollering and yelling.
I walked 5 miles back and forth to school uphill in the snow. God damn it.
Why didn't you just get your ride?
Why didn't your parents buy you a car?
No, I have faith in the human race too, and I'd like to think that what we're doing is starting a movement that looks at the human race as a whole. Looks at it as a whole as human rights and individuality, if that makes sense, right? So like I look at my society and I say, this is my community, my larger community. I believe that all of you are entitled to freedom and liberty and to live your life in the pursuit of happiness the way that you deem necessary, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. And I want to look at you all as individuals. Just don't hurt each other. That's it.
Yep.
And I hope we can get back there. I don't know if we can. I try to teach my own children. Look at each other as individuals. Look at each other for the people that you are, good or bad, and love each other for it. You can choose who you want to hang out with. You can choose, but don't judge someone else for the way they want to live their life. That's their business, not yours. And
now, you can judge them if they're hurting another person.
Yes, you can always judge them.
And that's why we're allowed a jury of our peers.
Yeah,
not a jury of the rich 1%.
And I'm also of the mind that we need to bring back the death penalty, right? If we started killing rapists and child molesters in the town green, if we strung them up, it would happen a lot less.
Well, that would, be aligning with the fact that we actually have proper punishments for sex offenses, offending criminals, but
which we don't.
I mean,
an old man who grew drugs in his backyard gets life, and convicted pedophiles get a few months because he's too fat to go to prison, or blah blah blah.
I think Brock Turner got what, like 6 months, and he only served like maybe 3. That was fun. Good job, America. So happy I live here.
And how many people do you just not know about? How many people in power get convicted of things and it gets scrubbed under the rug? It gets just swept right under there.
Epstein's a very good example.
beautiful segue into the news with Hunter Biden's laptop and UPS losing losing one set of Fox's documentation, and it's just it's the
Did
FBI
they lose it, or
sweeping
did
it
somebody like
sweeping
murk
it.
the fucking UPS person?
I don't think anybody murked the UPS person. I just believe that at the processing plant, somebody kind of modified things a little bit. They changed the shipment around.
So
But I
they're
mean,
with a free laptop right now.
Yeah, and dealing with the Alphabet Boys, how many years was it that the repairman had sent it in, and they sat on it for how many years until fucking Giuliani called them out for it and sent it in again?
Does anyone find it suspicious that this is coming up within months of the election? Right? Like, just like the Hillary emails. It all comes up.
We have
You know?
COVID during election year. I'm not really taking anything into
the great virus that killed 200,000 out of
that we just, who cares if our people have unemployment, if they have jobs?
Who cares? Who cares if there's more suicides this year than COVID deaths? Who cares if there's more drug-related deaths this year than COVID deaths? Who cares
that COVID has only actually directly killed 6% of the people that the government has been saying it killed?
Right. Or, killing a bunch of old people that they whine about getting all the Social Security money from anyways.
Yeah, who cares that the average number of comorbidities is 2.6? Who cares that the average age of death in COVID is older than the average age of death in general?
So COVID solves some real problems. Take care of
people so they can get a doctor's note without it costing $700, and then actually be able to take off work. Because I know I didn't get to take off work a lot when I was fucking working in restaurants and shit. You wonder why people show up to work
sick instead of quote unquote you.
Well, no, I mean I can work through a hangover. What I can't work through is a fucking flu. Like
we call that the brown liquor flu.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of, yeah, I'm fine.
So COVID solved a lot of problems, right? So COVID solved the problem of small business for them, right? COVID, they managed to get the people in the control and see how quickly they would comply. COVID did a lot of things for our government that people aren't seeing. And it really, when you look at the core of it, was completely planned. The WHO said that they needed to have a test of our emergency readiness system for a pandemic. The last administration talked about a large pandemic. They told us this was going to happen before it happened, just nobody was fucking listening.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Gates had the event 201 in October, right before this fucking shit started.
Yeah,
nobody
did a
notices
bunch
this.
Of CEOs step down just, on happenstance? Come on.
Some people actually stood up and said, yeah, we're not going to be part of this. I'm out. And I applaud those people. We should probably get their names up sometime.
Yeah, we need to look these people up. We need to hit these people up. Get them recognition for what they did, for standing up for people's fucking personal sovereignty.
I think we've forgotten also about, like at the beginning of this, there was a lot of officers, law enforcement officers, that made YouTube videos and went online and said, like, we're not going to enforce these laws. I'm going to quit. And I think this is nonsense. And some people quit, some people got fired, but they stood up and said, fuck you, we're not doing it. And I think we should definitely, give a shout out to those people that left their career to say this is wrong.
I was surprised that I had a situation happen yesterday where I had to call the cops, and the cop wasn't wearing a mask, and I was like, being in a democratic state, I was just like, okay, weird. You implement it everywhere else, but in somebody's random ass house, you're just not wearing a mask. okay. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. Like, I was, all right. But it is. It's like, at least somebody's fucking trying to do something, I guess, indirectly, but directly.
Well, that's like the Buddhist way of thinking, right? Quiet disobedience. We're just not going to do it.
I mean, or you could sit at the steps of the governor's mansion, cover yourself in gasoline and light yourself on fire.
to.
Buddhists do that too.
They do. They do. Fucking disturbing, but
And I'm
they
gonna
do.
buy a man a bigger t-shirt so I don't have to see him with his shirt unbuttoned anymore. It's fucking disgusting, you old hag. Ugh. Don't understand. You have enough to go spend money on a dinner with your fucking friends on our fucking dime, I'm sure. You can't fucking button up your t-shirt? What the fuck is wrong with you? Can't anymore.
So I think for me, it's getting a little late, and I'd like to just say in closing that I think, regardless of how this election turns out, it really doesn't matter. It's the small local governments that we have to really concentrate on. Who our president is only going to, the presidency is going to either accelerate or decelerate what is going to happen, but it's going to happen. And we're going to have to spend a long time fighting against it. So as important as this is, on some levels, it's unimportant. And I think that we as a culture need to see how unimportant it actually is and stop fighting each other and go down to our local community and say, what is it we all believe in here?
Practice some damn active listening, motherfuckers.
Yep.
Good God.
You want something to change? Shut your fucking mouth. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You listen more than you speak.
I'm here for it.
Absolutely. And on that note, I would like to make the suggestion to remember the 5th of November. No, I'm not calling for anything violent. I would like to spread the word, see if we can do this on short notice. After the election is over, we go out to our state capitals on the 5th of November. Just peaceful rallies. I want to see no violence.
We'll see. Share that on
Spread
Facebook.
the word, folks.
Oh wait, we can't share that on Facebook.
Yeah, no, seriously.
All right, guys.
Suck. God damn it.
You guys have a good night. Hades, I'll get you the recording. You can put it out and share us a link.
All right, absolutely. Keep your heads on a fucking swivel.
That's right. Night, guys.
Later.
Good night.